Even though we feel like we're on our own journey, there's so many common threads. And I do like the fact that it's kind of public information now, where there was a day when you would never even say that word. Who would talk about their periods, for God's sake? It was almost a taboo subject. And now I like the fact that it's really front and center, and women really want to be able to navigate this, and they want information. And I think that's what you and I, do for a lot of our colleagues and our clients.
The book is an unrivaled success, Dr. B. It really is. And even if you were only to look at the pictures and cook the recipes, then honestly, it's money well spent.
It's called the Menopause Menu. That's the short name. So the Menopause Menu, from hot flashes to delicious dishes, a symptom-driven, nourishing guide to mastering menopause.
I'm Philippa. In this podcast, me and my generous guests delve deep into the world of menopause. Buckle up and get ready to embark on a journey of empowerment and self-discovery as we embrace the change. Welcome to Moving Through Menopause. Hello, and welcome to Moving Through Menopause. It's wonderful for us to be together again. And not just me, but with Dr. Susan Baumgaertel. She's back in the room. Hello there, Dr. B. How are you doing?
Great. Thank you, Philippa.
It's wonderful to see you again on the other side of the Atlantic. We always feel like we're in the same room, but no, you're way over there. We're here today. We're talking menopause. We're moving through menopause together. Dr. B and I both have been traversing this journey through menopause almost simultaneously, not quite, and living and learning lots of lessons on the way. But guess what? Dr. B, she wrote a book, and I mean, what an achievement. It's a beautiful book. Thank you so much for sharing the chapters with me that you shared. And I'm definitely looking forward to seeing this book in print. It is, as you say, an experiential book. There's so much interweaving of your scientific medical knowledge and lots of complementary approaches to help us to manage our way through this mayhem that is menopause. And my favourite bit, of course, the recipes, Dr. B. Well, congratulations on birthing a book. I know you've been working on it for some time, but really it's a fabulous book for any woman of any age is really what I would say, because the sooner we know this stuff, the better.
Yeah, it's interesting. I could talk a lot about this in many different ways, but I think, what really kind of was synergistic for me was looking at how to bring scientific, evidence-based medical facts into the forefront with kind of holistic and complementary things, really not just kind of as icing, but as integral to that process, in a way that was simple and accessible, but not dumbing it down. If there's something that I really hate, as a physician, it's dumbing things down. People are smart, especially women going through this phase. They are looking for knowledge. They're trying to get information. And I found that over so many years, many of them are really frustrated because they didn't have a resource. They could, of course, Dr. Google, dare I mention, they could go to the internet and they could look up stuff. And then they got confused, or they had to look up every word because it's a very thick medical kind of document. Or on the opposite, it was just kind of woo-woo and just, oh my gosh, waste your money if you buy this product kind of thing. So I think trying to get that balance was really important for me. And I know that you do that in your profession as well. In fact, I was thinking about one of my chapters, the musculoskeletal system and problems. I can only imagine that when you're working with clients, there are many people who have, asked their neighbor or their best friend or their Google, and they're doing something that's actually harmful to them and actually may damage or cause injury. And so you're there to kind of put those pieces together and to help them. And I think that's really what I feel this book is really kind of a navigation tool for menopause.
Yeah, well, I would say that is definitely the case. You have grouped the symptoms into chapters, or chapters into symptoms. I'm not sure if I'm saying that the right way around. And you started with hot flashes, or hot flushes as we call them over here. which can be one of the most common symptoms, and sometimes the first thing that women start to experience when they're that kind of, oh, really? Already? And so, right straight off from the bat, we're there into hot flashes. How many chapters are there altogether, Dr. B?
So there's 16 chapters, and I kind
Ooh.
of based them on what I found over the years as a physician, kind of the top symptoms, for instance, hot flashes or hot flushes, night sweats. It could be vaginal dryness. It could be libido change. It could be, mental health issues. And also conditions. It could be chronic illness. It could be cancer and other things that are kind of very much in the forefront as women who are kind of approaching menopause or going through menopause or having just been through menopause and they're now postmenopause and they're dealing with. And so I just really felt that, as you know, there are many more than just 16 symptoms or things related to menopause. But I just wanted that low hanging fruit, so to speak, and to really, have this resource where someone can kind of look up. You don't read the book from start to end. You can maybe go to chapter 8, and chapter 8 is all about weight gain. So that would be a good chapter maybe you start on. And I think that's where the fun part comes in. Like you mentioned, I have a recipe tagged with each symptom or each chapter. So, for instance, the hot flashes one, I have miso soup, which is, when you think about miso and has chunks of tofu in it. So you think about kind of phytoestrogen or these kind of components that actually can reduce hot flashes in some women. So I'm kind of teasing in some of these recipes in a way that support those symptoms.
Yes, no, I mean, absolutely. In my personal journey through life, food as medicine is something that I really embrace wholeheartedly. And I was reading through the chapter on sleep. You know that sleeplessness or insomnia, interrupted sleep, that was my nemesis during the perimenopausal period. And boy, did I suffer. And your recipe there was for a sort of a cheese quiche with I love this twist with
The hash brown crust.
yeah.
This was written by a colleague who lives in, oh gosh, I think it's Michigan. I hope I'm right. A physician who's a breast cancer survivor, and
Oh, okay.
she's a vegetarian. And it's her recipe: cheesy veggie quiche with a hash brown crust. And when I've made this several times, and you don't have to make it vegetarian. You can pop in some Canadian bacon or whatever you like, but it is so good. And, the reason I put that in that chapter was that often you wake up, you're not refreshed, you're exhausted, maybe even tossing and turning. You just you're not even thinking about a healthy breakfast because you're so tired. Well, guess what? If you make that quiche, ahead of time, you can cut it up into sections. You can pop it in your fridge or even your freezer, maybe, put it in the microwave for a minute. Boom, your breakfast is ready. And so it's kind of like a relief to know that you can eat something that you've made that's really tasty and, for the most part, pretty nutritious and supports that part of menopause that you're having trouble with.
Well, yes, because do you know what? I looked at that recipe and I thought, hang on a minute, if I ate this at bedtime, I would be guaranteed a sleepless night because of the salt in the cheese. And, people talk about cheese dreams and all that, don't they? And then I kind of interrogated it further and I realized you were suggesting this as a breakfast option. And I thought that is absolutely inspired. What a fabulous idea. So yes, eggs for breakfast. You've got all the food groups in there, haven't you? The
And your
vegetables.
protein punch.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was kind of going, ooh, curious, and then I was absolutely won over by that recipe. But not only the recipes, it's beautiful to look at, but the way that you've covered it in enough detail, and yet not so much that you sort of start to think, oh no, I can't cope with this. Some medical type information, you can find yourself really overfaced. And I know it was a beautiful balance of presenting scientific information in a very palatable way. And we talk about palatable. I was giggling to myself as I was looking through the sort of subheadings: appetizer, amuse-bouche. Well, how do you say that again?
Well, yeah, exactly. And so I have no idea. This kind of this popped into my brain long before I was writing the book. And I thought like, oh, I want to group things together so each chapter is presented the same way. And so, of course, I love food. Who doesn't? And I thought, well, this is going to be like a restaurant menu. So it actually does, I think, work. So there's the amuse-bouche, that kind of little teaser. In fact, I was going to read the amuse-bouche from that sleep section.
Oh, because, go ahead.
I have like poems, I have haiku, I have quotes from colleagues. This one I love. It's from a woman, Dr. Susan Scott. She's a PhD. She's a psychotherapist. And this is her haiku. 2:00 star walk, I become menopausal cat, searching in the dark. I just love that. So that was the amuse-bouche. It kind of gets you ready. And then there's the appetizer, and I have what I call menabits, little tidbits of information that anyone could really benefit if they don't want to read the whole chapter. And then there's the entree, which of course is the chapter content. And then the palate cleanser is the recipe. And then dessert is actually one of my favorite sections. It's kind of like a wild card. There's lots of different things in the dessert section.
Yeah. Well, I particularly liked the menopause bingo. I've toyed with that with my groups of people that I work with. But yours is a really good way of presenting potential symptoms that people might have suffered from, and then they can sort of do the bingo game. And I always think I would have won that game, Susan, when I was perimenopausal. I think I would have won, but I'm not on my own, I'm sure, feeling like that. No, I mean, it's wonderful. Congratulations. It's looking really good and so full of. I was chatting with some female colleague only today, and we were both sort of bemoaning the fact that we are educated women who were taken by surprise, which, this really is happening to so many women that they're starting to question their sanity, their usefulness moving forwards through life, and this is just not cricket, as we say over here. So, having the resource such as your book to delve into for really useful, actionable tips and information. And then, you've got some wonderful quotes, haven't you, from clients or ladies, colleagues, whatever, and maybe one or two of your own thrown in there. Probably I would have done that.
I actually didn't. Isn't that odd? I thought, well, I'm writing, but there is actually another woman named Susan with some quotes.
Oh, yeah. I thought, is that Dr. B? Is it? I didn't
She's a little older, actually. Well, it's interesting you're mentioning about, the surprise or this kind of challenging. I don't know about you, but, in some of my, electronic feeds, I'll get the New York Times or other kind of Washington Post here, or other things that are kind of informational news feed. And it seems like hardly a day goes by and there's not a pretty splashy, pretty big article on something to do with menopause. It could be menopause in the workplace, or it could be menopause, just kind of there was one a couple of days ago. In fact, it was in the travel section. It wasn't even the health section, for God's sake. And it was about some really bougie, pricey spa, like a spa or retreat, and you go there for 5 days. I have no word. I didn't read the whole thing, frankly.
No.
But at first I thought like, oh, this is really bad. Everyone's getting on the wagon, everyone's making money, But then for some reason, I got compelled to read the comments. And usually I don't, because who has time? But I was reading the comments and I thought, some of them were just snubbing, like, oh, what's this doing here? This is silly. Someone's just making money. And then others saying, well, it is the travel section. But truthfully, it was fascinating because you had this texture, this fabric of women, some who saying like, well, I'm 75, that was years ago, but boy, there was no one around for me and I had no idea where to turn and it was just really, really hard. Others saying this is a natural process. Everyone goes through it. Suck it up, buttercup, and all those kind of, and everything in between. That was fun for me because it reminds all of us that even though we feel like we're on our own journey, there's so many common threads. And I do like the fact that it's kind of public information now, where there was a day when you'd never even say that word. Who would talk about their periods, for God's sake? It was almost a taboo subject. And now I like the fact that it's really front and center, and women and men, but women really want to be able to navigate this, and they want information. And I think that's what you and I, do for a lot of our colleagues and our clients.
Yes, well, yeah, and things have changed a lot in only the last 3 years of me doing the work that I've been doing. So, bring it on, as you say, it's more is better. And I think, the thing that really sort of was my issue was that I suspected this was due to menopause, but I didn't think there was anything I could do about it, right?
Right.
And I thought to myself, I don't want any of those hormones, is what I thought to myself. And the other thing, of course, the interweaving of all the different symptoms, how they sort of compound one another. So that having the odd disrupted night because of night sweats, feeling fatigued, having trouble with memory, and then the period piece. So this was chapter 4, I think. Is it the periods? Yes.
Yeah.
So the periods changing, and quite frankly, I thought menopause was about periods going away. But what happened first was, what happened first was not that. It was every 3 weeks for about 3 years, bleeding heavily. And for some reason, thinking I had to tolerate this. So to add to the insomnia, the night sweats, the heavy bleeding, I was iron deficient. So I was just hanging out of honestly, it was I was so exhausted, and it was all of those things sort of adding together, which was the difficulty that so many women have, that if it was only one thing, we'd be getting ourselves sorted out, wouldn't we? But
well, and then I think, and almost everyone I've ever spoken to nods their head vigorously. You start to feel like you're a little crazy. Like, am I imagining some of this, or is this really, what is it? And it's kind. We live sometimes in a polar world. You either ignore it, hope it goes away, or get so sucked down that rabbit hole, every little thing's wrong, and so. We have to get ourselves self-centered, and I think that's where knowledge is power, of course. And now we have not just my book, but so many other ways for women to get information. But no, that's the reason why I actually have 2 sections: a chapter on mental health, and one chapter on stress and life stressors, separating them even though there's lots of overlap, because I think the mental health component really gets missed, because so many women already have things that you might be able to call anxiety or depression, or maybe they have ADD these days or other things. And so you sprinkle on top of that menopause and the whole hormone change, like, oh my gosh, it's a recipe for disaster. And I guess the best way to say it is normalizing this journey, that it's okay if you're feeling a little stressed. It's okay if you're feeling a little out of control, that there's nothing wrong with you. And then learning tools, certainly physical activity is part of that, but learning ways to kind of mitigate that and to kind of reintroduce yourself to your body again.
Well, yes, the changing, inevitable changes that are going to take place. And to sort of settle into that does sometimes take a little bit of doing, doesn't it? But I think, for me, for us in the Western world, Western medical approaches have become so compartmentalized that any condition that's speaking to more than one system at once, we've got the digestive system disruptions, the memory centers, the emotional centers in the brain, all of the heart. I mean, we've talked about my palpitations before, Dr. B, haven't we? So all of these, and although our general practitioners are in the UK, physicians are schooled in all these different aspects, it's when it's happening all at once in the same person, I think it can be challenging for a lot of physicians to navigate your way through that. But you've got a lifetime's of experience of doing this and working with women a lot of the time as well. So the way that you communicate your knowledge and information in such a digestible, understandable, and humorous, is the other thing. There's lots of fun in there. I was smiling to myself as I was having a look at those chapters. So, but do you understand what I'm saying about, Chinese medicine, for instance, you start to look at the body very much as a whole. And so we tackle these issues on a whole system, with a whole system approach. Now, sending somebody for an ECG to look at the heart, then you'd have to send them to the psychiatrist. Then, we'd have to go and see all these different professionals, specialists, if you like, to sort of unpick this puzzle. And the more you separate it, the harder it becomes, I think.
Yeah. No, I think that's true with so many things. I'm happy that I settled in my field, which is internal medicine, because I'm a neurologist, I'm a dermatologist, I'm a rheumatologist, I'm a cardiologist. I would do all those things, but I know what you're saying. And in fact, it's probably getting worse, perhaps due to the pandemic. I don't know, where a lot of offices are so busy. You can't get in. They're short staffed, so there's not, everyone's doing two jobs in one. And I think that sadly, I think the patient can just kind of get lost in the system at times. And you're right. It's so easy when you have that 10-minute visit to just, oh, well, I'm going to refer you to so-and-so. And that person maybe is not available for 8 weeks or something crazy, So I think that it's not for lack of interest or skills. It's kind of the system problem. Yeah. But I was able to escape that for the most part in my practice. Now that I've pivoted to doing telemedicine, it's different. But I really do try to honor that process and looking at all those different, there's a whole field now, culinary medicine, looking at foods and have them thought of as treatments for conditions or even in the preventive world. And there's the whole kind of the huge field of integrative medicine. So there's all of those things coming together. I think this is really an exciting time. And I've just naturally done that in my own practice. So it's been a part of me all along. But yeah, it was nice to kind of culminate that part of my journey in this book and to really learn a few things too, because boy, as I found, publishing is not for the faint of heart. Quite the journey in itself.
Well, I can only imagine, and I mean, what an amazing job you've managed to pull this off, as you say, a self-published author. How just incredible is that? I have to say, Susan, you've written the book that I wanted to write, but couldn't kind of get my head around.
Well, I would say kindred spirits, right?
Well, yeah. It was interesting, actually. What we're saying is that this is a whole system approach that we want to take with the women around this time of life. Well, you know what? At any time of life, to be honest, because all these different systems are talking to one another constantly. And so the solution is not a one-stop shop either, is it? And I think you brought that across really nicely in the book, that hormones, as we know, I do now have the patch and is part of the solution potentially for those women that take that route, but that there are so many other things that we can do. And if we put them together, then it can be a really powerful prescription. And you've got the recipes, you've got some really nice mindfulness suggestions in there. And I know that you are acknowledging all the different people that you have taken inspiration from as well throughout the research that you've been doing over the last number of years for this book. So although it is the work of one person, it's also the culmination of a whole lot of different influences and ideas and contributions, isn't it? Which is lovely too.
Yeah, I love the way you said it. And I would say that if you asked kind of at the end of all this, what are my next steps? My next steps really are to continue this collaborative approach to helping people and also my journey. And I think I started the book that way. I went through the book that way. And it's not just the be all end all. It's one thing that I'm happy with and I want it to go far and wide. But I really love the fact that I can continue to collaborate with so many different type of people, especially women, who are eager and bring different things to the picture. We kind of have our own way of looking at things. And I think you grow and learn by sharing your ideas and then by learning others. And I think that's the exciting part. And it's almost been like a little calling card now. People will want to, my next podcast is in 2 days. And I feel like that, that energy, it's almost electric. It's kind of spreading in a way that's really fun and supportive. And, I think there's a hashtag on social media called Better Together. I think we are, as women, especially going through this journey, better together. And to me, that's just the cat's meow.
Well, it certainly is. And I wholeheartedly concur that no person is an island, and we are undoubtedly better together. And I've really enjoyed all of our collaborations up to this point, and hope that they long continue. The book is an unrivaled success, Dr. B. It really is. And even if you were only to look at the pictures and cook the recipes, then honestly, it's money well spent.
I realize that I never even mentioned the title. I'm sure you'll have a picture.
Oh my goodness!
But it's called the Menopause Menu. That's the short name. So the Menopause Menu, and I think you can get it in 8 countries now, including the UK, on Amazon. But the Menopause Menu, from hot flashes to delicious dishes, a symptom-driven, nourishing guide to mastering menopause.
I mean, there you said it all. It's everything that it says on the front cover is what you deliver. Who did the artwork for the front? Is that
my mother? My late mother was the artist. There's probably a 10-minute conversation about that piece, but I love it. It was from an era in the 1980s when she did life drawing from the nude figure, and that one hung in one of my exam rooms for many, many years. And I love it. It just speaks to me a lot about women.
I did wonder where you had acquired that image from. How wonderful that you can, weave this thread across the generations even. And, how fabulous. Well, I mean, we could talk about what's in that book till the cows come home, because menopause is quite a meaty topic, isn't it?
Very much so.
But today we're just celebrating your success, really. Congratulations. It's been a great pleasure for me to share your journey as you've been picking your way through this process. I don't know how on earth you fitted it all in, with pivoting your business, as you say, online.
I would say probably, like for anything, good advice in life, follow your passion. And to me, this has been one of my passions, and work, but pleasurable at the same time. Well, I wanted to thank you for having me on. I wanted to thank you for your interest, and I hope everyone gets to benefit at some point if they're able to read it.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much for your time today, and we'll be seeing you again soon, I hope. Bye for now.
Bye.